Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club, and it's time once again for another postcard of the week. We're going to go back to Dripping Springs, Texas today, and we're going to be interviewing a good friend of mine, Debbie Wilson. She is Mrs. Ken Wilson, for those of you who don't know them, but wonderful people and lots of fun to be with. And she is going to be explaining a little bit in this interview about what she does and how she is both a collector and a dealer. And a lot of times dealers get started, or they have a box of cards, or they have something that they have, began with. They've added to their collection, and they're maybe changing their focus a little bit. But I think you'll understand that better with what Debbie's going to present today. So, Debbie, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. And if you would just go ahead and give us your presentation and show
Oh,
us what you brought today. Thank you.
thanks, Hal. Thanks, Hal. I'm mainly an artist, but of course I am a collector and a dealer, like you said. My art deals with women, mostly is the subject that I like to do, and I make etchings out of the photographs that I collect. And I mainly collect women's suffrage as my or women draped in flags or women in occupation. And so that's what I'm always looking for. The fun part of going to Wichita and going into this room with all of these cards, I've learned not to assume that somebody doesn't have what you need. This particular card that I found was in an album and of real photo postcards in the back of the room, and I just assumed these people had nothing of what I would probably want, but I'd look through it, and it was like shocking when I found this. It was not necessarily even what I imagined was out there. It is this postcard here of women pallbearers at a time, well, women pallbearers now even are rare, but at that time, the women pallbearers, to me, had to be they were carrying a woman. Um, it's interesting that there are a couple of men that maybe are sort of assisting them. In the background, there are just men onlookers and one woman. And so it just confused me, but unlike Ken, sometimes, I mean, he really, I've learned a lot about researching from him. Uh, Mine is I look at a subject and I think, oh, I know what's going on here, and I make up my own history about it. Um, Actually, I looked on the back of this card and it says that it's Prairie View, Kansas, which I just really looked at that part yesterday. And so I was kind of thinking, well, what happened in Prairie View, Kansas? And so I started researching and I was trying to scramble to find something more historic to say about possibilities of what this card was about. Um, and I just didn't have the time, but I'm planning on doing that because I'd like to know. Maybe I could discover who, through maybe the newspaper clippings or something, who maybe had women pallbearers at their funeral. But
Sure.
that wasn't necessarily the most important part to me. The fact that these were women carrying a casket was just so extraordinary, and I was thrilled. It cost me $12. So I thought, "Oh my gosh, I would have paid gladly, you know, 5 times that much to have this image." And so I took the image, I altered it some, And then I made it into an etching plate, and an etching plate that I've told many stories from by combining it with drawings, collage, just different things that I do with my art. And to throw this in can make a very powerful image about how women support each other, and which is usually one of the messages that I do as far as trying to create a narrative with my artwork. And so this was a wonderful surprise. I was on a high for a long time after I found this one, because it was like, oh man, I'm going to use this in so many ways, and I have.
Yeah. Well, you can see from your etching the art, what came from you, and you added to it, of course, but that background, it's so subtle, and it just you can
Yeah.
almost, well, you can see the wind blowing the lady's dress in the back. I mean,
Oh,
it was a
absolutely.
stiff breeze that
Yeah,
day.
and
But
the image of what I did with it, can show that, and um, I printed it on a mono print with a drawing, and the edge around it is a newspaper clippings and magazine clippings from, and in their original, of the, just things about the suffrage movement.
yeah.
So, and it's telling a story about what the suffrage women did for each other,
Right,
which
right.
was extraordinary because you had to band together.
Right. And suffrage, of course, for those younger who may not know, but that's votes for women. It's the cause, and they had to fight for it and struggle for uh, getting this different states, the different 48 states, to agree to having it
Exactly.
be
And
uh,
we got the right to
having
vote.
it be legal to be able
Right.
to, for a woman to vote in that state, and they
We
would vote
we
state
Go
by
ahead, I'm
state.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
and
took several years to get that
right.
passed.
And we didn't get the right to vote until 1920. So that's that's relatively
Recent.
recent.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe not for some of the young people who don't know about that women never had the right to vote, but it is relatively recent. And then we have to still fight for other aspects of our lives as women. And so the bonding of women, I think, is very important, and that's why I include it mostly in my artwork. And the I have a large collection of women draped in flags or holding flags, and that's all of this time when women didn't have the right to vote, but they were very patriotic. And so to me, for them to support a country that did not support them, in essence, or want to hear what their opinions are, was very important. And so that I've used those images as part of my collections, but also in my artwork to get the point across that we have to soldier on.
Right, right. Well, you've done just a beautiful job with that finished piece that you
Oh,
showed and shared with us today, and it just is another good example of showing what you might discover at the postcard show, something that you had no idea even existed, but you discovered it, you found it. Boxes of postcards are there
and
for you to
albums
go
and
through.
albums.
Albums, right, right, that too.
And
But
it's an incredible show, a wealth of postcards out there and other ephemera, um, but mostly postcards fabulous, and everybody's so helpful and so nice, and it's genuine, and there's pie. I'm saying.
Pie and bowls of chili too.
Yeah, bowls of chili and pie.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for coming today. We really appreciate getting into your studio and seeing and visiting with you there. And we look forward to seeing you and Ken
We're gonna
this
be there.
October 21 and 22 here in Wichita, Kansas. And there'll be there is our flyer that we show here online. And if you have any questions or want to ask anything about it, do let us know and we'll be glad to reply and help. Thanks, Debbie, and we'll see you in October.
Thanks, Hal. Or
You
looking
bet.
forward to seeing you in person.
Oh, okay. And we'll have some pie.
Oh, we'll have pie. Get
Oh,
Dolores.
yes.
We'll get
Okay.
Dolores.
Bye-bye. Thank you.